It's good. It's good. Working for the buddy over here. What's up, people? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I'm gonna condense this right here. I'm just gonna condense this right here. So you can possibly see. I don't know if you see it. All right, it's backwards to you guys, but it says New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, personnel rules and regulations. All right, it's basically saying the table of contents in that, and basically we're going to go to Rule 1, and we're just going to go to appointing officer, right? And it says the president of the corporation and the senior vice president for the networks or the health care facilities administration for the central office. The senior vice president's responsibility for personnel and labor relations, or those to whom they have delegated the powers of the powers to appointing employees, meaning those who can hire. May also be referred to as a appointing authority. Now we're going to go down to here. The senior vice president. I'm not bullshitting you. I just condensed it. The senior vice president, corporate officer delegate by the president to the responsibilities for the personnel and labor relations functions. All right? And then it says the corporation. The corporation is the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation. This is all in their corporate, their personnel rules and regulations and that. Now, I got the individual here who is the senior vice president. I'm just going to read what it said this individual was. The senior vice president of New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation of North Brooklyn Health Network and executive director of Woodhull Hospital, has been with New York City with HAC since May 2006. During her tenure at Woodhull, she advanced a number of innovation programs to expand primary care and specialty services and promote a healthy lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle through aggressive community outreach under her leadership at Woodhull Hospital. Okay, had enough. What I'm going to go into is basically the fact. It says it right there that you're in charge of labor relations and personnel. So that would get both sides of human resources. Personnel is human resources. Labor relations deals with any ongoing situations in reference to behavior. Okay, violation of corporate compliance in the whole 9 yards. Violation of your contract agreement. Okay, let's go further. We're going to go into the fact of, you see it's posted, that letter of termination. Gotta go there. So, based on the fact that the probationary employee, the hospital police, when he was hired, he was the assistant deputy director who was on probation for a year, who during his probation took his motor vehicle and used his motor vehicle in 3 separate incidents against officers under his command. And being fact, to use these vehicles in such reckless driving or reckless endangerment, which constitutes Class A misdemeanor. Traffic law, 1212. The mere fact you try to run an officer over with the vehicle, what's that? 1138 or 36. Still a misdemeanor. The fact you did it with a motor vehicle, that would go under 12020 recklessness. In penal law, now all of these are acts of gross misconduct, period. So we're going to go to 5.2.3 of your personnel rules and regulations. And it says that if a probationary employee, any acts of gross misconduct, which that is ground for immediate separation of services. Why didn't you do that? We just need to know. And you continue to let this guy target over 50 people, wrongfully terminated them, wrongfully suspended them. Was it about the bonus or something, or help us out, or was it just a fact of let them just run? Just need to know. I'm just gonna go there. You already got a beautiful rural track record because we went to 40 rector, and the only way you can take a civil servant's position is, basically you go through 40 rector under the arbitration agreement. Now, in this act, you guys brought them into play and tainted them. We look at the fact of how the labor relations officer gave your representing lawyer fraudulent information to file on the record to be used as accusatory instrument. If you're going to use it over there and they're going to follow through with it, that would be corrupting the government, right? That would be subsection 496.02. Yeah. And those instrumentalities, something like that, instrumentalities, man. That's like anything you use in reference to your organization and the corporation. Let's just go there. The key fact is the number one thing what the individual did was the gross misconduct. Then we go to number two. Number two is the most beautiful and most strongest. When the individual said, I don't want them coming back here. I don't want them don't let them down here to park. I don't want them parking here. Which violated a signed contract agreement. And you can look on your own records. So, in violation of that signed contract agreement, U.S. Code 42, that Jackie Robinson, I love it to call it that. Just because of the number, that's why I call it that. U.S. Code 42, privatization of a right or privilege. This would go for any citizen or other person. Any citizen or other person within the jurisdiction of the United States. Or the corporation of the United States. Because you got to understand, when you a government employee, you're part of the corporation. That will make you fully a citizen. Because you're a governmental employee. Civil servant. Let's go further. The fact that, you got to look at the people that's working for you in reference to when they take this information and they pass it on up to your desk and they just get you to, because you're on the executive level and you're just signing off on that. The mere fact that you're on the executive level, you got to be held accountable. You're the responding superior. You got to be held accountable. So we look at the fact, as my therapist said, we can't talk about anybody else, but we can talk about mine. We look at the fact of all the rules and regulations and laws that was broken to achieve what it was that you did. See, because you signed off on it. What up, brother? I see you watching. I see you, brother. The mere fact that we're talking about this individual who signed off on the document, and anything you sign is a contract. Who signed off on the document and then went behind and said, I agree with the arbitration judge at 40 Rector and their decision. Well, their decision was in violation of their canons. It was in violation of their canon law. Canons 2, the mere appearance of impropriety. To go ahead with it will bring about canons 1, which brings about your integrity as a judge. You do know that your job, you work for the corporation. So you have these canons as per the corporation under their corporate compliance. To push forward and say, well, I'm a judge, I could just do this, would bring in the fact of ultra-virus, which is beyond your powers. So said action to do that would bring in what we call is a violation of due process. And as any civil servant, when they bring you up on charges, they must follow due process. On the fundamental fairness and fundamental rights of due process, they must follow that in order to take your job away from you when it comes to subsection 75, wherein it must be under incompetency or misconduct. They must prove that under a burden of proof. Under their burden of proof, they must prove that. And remember, under their burden of proof, it's only because it's a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. And the civil matter is a preponderance of evidence. But see, what they think you can get you lost is that it's a civil matter. We can do all of this civil stuff in the whole 9 yards, such as the perjury on the stand and all of that. Really, once you do it, it becomes criminal. Now, your actions in doing that brings about, the state attorney general, which brings about the district attorney. It brings in those watchdogs in reference to what you did, how you did it, how you violate certain rules, regulations, and laws. We're going based on your actions. The same way you will hold your employees accountable to their actions, you're an employee. You're to be held accountable for your actions. So the accountability falls in when, I just signed off on the termination. I don't care. You basically violated your corporate compliance policy. Did you read the facts? Did you read everything? Did you go over everything? I have people that do investigation. What if the people that's doing the investigation was doing stuff that was fraudulent? Can you count on that? It's real simple. Real simple. Was he on duty? No. Did you sit in the vehicle? No. That's 2 right there. So how you going to write him up? I just wrote him up. Okay. Now I see, did you give him a verbal directive? Yes, I did. 13560, under threatening coercion, intimidation. Is intimidation a violation of your corporate compliance policy? Yes, it is in there. Did you write him after you told him? Yeah, that would be retaliation, right? Double whammy right there. Double whammy. That will also fall under that whistleblower. Okay? Then you go to the other one who's in the office and gets screened by the supervisor, and then all of a sudden screams at the next person. And then they even go and ask Officer Maxwell, yo, we need you to write a statement saying that he did this. He said he didn't do it. But we need you to write a statement. Corruption at its fullest. Violation of Mayoral Order number 16. So we're going back to that responding superior and signing that document. That's the key. You must understand. This responding superior signed the document. Must be accountability. And the beautiful thing about this is how they delayed the entire process. So when they got New York State Division of Human Rights in, they said, well, we need you to delay this. So they delayed it 791 days. They breached their contract right there. 791 days. So when I spoke to the investigator, she was like, yeah, good luck. Which made me think, why would you say, yeah, good luck, when you breached your own contract? You're 791 days late. You were supposed to answer yours with, when I first did it was 45 days. Now it's what you call 60 days. So you were supposed to still answer and respond within 60 days. let's just do this simple math. There were several officers as well who filed their complaint right along with me at the same time. They got an investigator within those 180 days and got an answer. This was the machine basically just throwing their stuff out because we're going to go with, the corporation because they didn't do this. All it takes is one. All it takes is one to do the proper investigation through your documents and bring out the facts. A, he's a probationary employee. B, the mere fact that he did this stuff, on the first level, he was supposed to be terminated and gone. C, the act of getting these guys to submit supervision and administration to submit documents, fraudulent documents, on the record. Let's go there. The first time you submit one document, if it's a punishable document, that will be subsection 21045. That's Class A misdemeanor. Now, we're going to go right along with that document because you submitted it. You made a punishable instrument. That instrument, you submitting it, right? Should be filed on the record, right? As an accusatory instrument, right? Yes. Okay. Now we go into subsection 17530, which is also a Class A misdemeanor. The mere fact that you work for your employer, a public employer, which makes you a public servant, 19500. The act you're doing is misconduct, which is also Class A misdemeanor. To be the fact that you work for a corporation, subsection 2020 and subsection 2025, because you're an employee of that corporation. You bringing them under subsection 2020 and 2025 brings them up under liability. So you're now making your corporation liable for your actions. And this is what the respondent superior is supposed to acknowledge. No, you're not going to bring the corporation. No. What did you do? Oh, so this seems like it's personal. No, we're gonna quash that. We're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna get rid of that. And don't do it again. Because what you're doing is actually a criminal act because you wrote it up. And then you submitted it. You can be held accountable for this. You do understand this. You don't? Let me hand you out a nice little pamphlet of Mayoral Order 16. Hold on to that. Read it over and over and over. Matter of fact, post it in your office. I want you to go down to, what is it, E or F? Where it says you're not allowed to conduct investigations in the whole 9 yards. But let's start in the beginning. When it says that they want to root out corruption, abuse, fraud. What you're doing is fraudulent. So now you just tainted. She signed off on it, and you just tainted her. So now she got to run for cover. The mere fact that it was reported to the EEO, the facility's EEO, she was obligated to report it to the corporate compliance officer. You got to crush this, but I'm gonna let it pass. My captain said what happened was bias to you. I said, no, I'm not going to use that. I see it, but I'm not going to use that. We're just going to get those facts. Okay? We're going to use the facts against them. Now, like I said, you think about all of those who was involved in what they did and how they get other entities to work. So we already got New York State Division of Human Rights who holds it and lets it go past what you would call is 2 years to 3 years under the whistleblower, right, of wrongful termination under the contract law, subsection 214, which really gives you 6 years to basically, fight for your case. But you got to also understand if there's a point where they violated due process, hold that on them. They took you and got a judgment, hold that on them. If you could prove beyond a reasonable doubt or by preponderance of evidence, because it went civil, if you could prove by preponderance of evidence that they violated due process in any form, fashion, manner, or way, you could prove it by fact that they violated due process, their decision is vetoed under your substantive and substantial right. Now, you got to look at the fact of your representation. This is when that grievance coordinator or your lawyer. See, the grievance coordinator is really a litigations attorney. Okay? This is when they're supposed to come in with their part and say, nah, there was a violation of due process. This can't go nowhere. In representation, those business agents and the grievance coordinator or attorneys, they know. They know and they knew. So based on the fact that you know or reason to believe have known, or based on the fact that you know or should have known due that you inherited because you work in that position, not to violate your corporate compliance policy, not to violate your signed contract agreement, not to violate your fiduciary. Under your fiduciary, we're going to bring in your fiduciary duties, your fiduciary responsibility, your fiduciary relationship. So going back to, once again, that respondent superior, who's the senior vice president of the organization, you had a fiduciary. And you had, in your fiduciary, those underneath you, who are in your media underneath you, supposed to be to check and advise on all that material. How do a regular officer pull up all of this material if you got all of these supervisors who's supposed to know? These are supposed to be supervisors. It brings about a question of their abilities. Maybe it's the fact they just got too comfortable. Maybe it's the fact that they just went and made it personal. But we're not going on a personal level because you're in a professional environment. And we must be held accountable by our actions. If you hold any employee accountable to their actions in employment, your employer must hold you accountable to your actions of gross negligence, of gross misconduct, of deceptive practices, of breach of contract, of breach of duty. The list goes on. As a respondent superior, you're accountable to your employees, right? I believe you it's not hard to do this, you know. This is not hard. We in a pandemic, so it's nothing but homework, baby. This is homework. So we go to this wonderful app here, and we're going to pull up Respondent Superior. All right. And here it is, Respondent Superior. Latin meaning, let the principal answer. This is a doctrine in agency law, which implies, not implies, this is imputes a liability to the employer. Liability to the employer for the negligent actions of an employee while the employee was performing work within the scopes of his or her employment. Somebody hitting me up right now. I don't know who it is. I had to get back at it. I'm just saying. I'm going to have to call them back. But this is what we're talking about here. This is the key thing we're talking about. And the fact is that they're gross negligence and they treat people as if, well, they're all idiots. They're not all idiots. Look what these kids got. Look what these kids got. If anybody 50 or better, would have had that at these kids' age and focus, Come on, you be walking around with your master's degree in a blink. It's not that hard. I'm just saying. I'm just looking at what she did, how she did it, how she let those beneath her do what they did in reference to violation of corporate compliance policies, how they breached their duties in the whole 9 yards, how they corrupted the system. Violation of Mayoral Order number 16. Executive Order 16. Right there. Right there. Come on. There's nothing you can say. I'm going to keep documenting my stuff. And hey, you know the deal. As always, the facts cannot be altered nor denied. Keep it real, and I'm out. Later.